Today I'll be taking a closer look at a fairly interesting gaming monitor from Gigabyte that recently hit the market, the M32U. It is a 32-inch monitor with a 4K resolution and 144Hz refresh rate. It has HDMI 2.1, so you can use it for your PC as well as your consoles. And it is one of the more affordable monitors with these specs. It will cost you around 800 euros here in the EU or around $800 without taxes in the US. Let's check it out. This video is brought to you by Corsair and their brand new HS80 RGB wireless gaming headset. The HS80 offers everything you would want as a gamer, including great audio with plenty of bass, Dolby Atmos support, a very sleek design with a comfortable fit, and a long battery life so you can easily game for hours without any interruptions. Whether you like to game on a PC or you prefer your PlayStation consoles, this headset will be an excellent choice for both. Check it out using the links in the description below. Now, Gigabyte reserves the Aorus branding for their higher-end products, meaning that this M32U should be a bit more basic in a lot of aspects compared to the Aorus FI32U that has the same panel, but it will cost you a bit more and it will offer a bit more of a premium experience when it comes to design and some features. And speaking of design, it is very basic and very unoffensive. It is not made to impress your inner gamer, but to serve its purpose, and it actually does that very well. The front looks very clean as well as the back of the monitor, and while the stand has a plastic cover, it does have a sturdy metal base inside it that makes this monitor very stable. It is height adjustable, you can swivel it, you can tilt it, but you cannot rotate it 90 degrees. You can also vase mount it if you prefer, but if you do use a stand, it is nice to see that they included some form of cable management as well. When it comes to connections, you get two HDMI 2.1 ports, one display port, and one USB Type-C port. There's also a USB hub, and Gigabyte is again including their KVM switch feature, which lets you control multiple devices with one keyboard and one mouse. So, for example, you can work on your gaming PC and then use the same peripherals for your laptop or a tablet connected to your monitor via the USB Type-C port. And you basically have a physical button on the back of the monitor to easily switch between your devices. But do keep in mind that the power delivery of the Type-C port is limited. So while you can charge your phone just fine, you cannot really use and charge your laptop with one single cable. Now, another odd restriction is the HDMI 2.1 bandwidth limitation, same as in my previous review of their FV43U monitor. Now, Gigabyte is technically listing this on their specs page, but it is actually very easy to overlook it. So the HDMI is limited to 24 gigabits, meaning that you need DSC support in order to get 4K 120 or 144 Hz over the HDMI without losing image quality. And any recent GPU as well as the Xbox Series X will offer this support just fine. But if you have an older GPU or a PS5, you will get some chroma subsampling. Now, I did try this with a couple of games with the PlayStation, and I cannot really say that I noticed the difference that much while gaming. But if you have an older PC and you want to use this monitor for work, make sure you just avoid the HDMI port and connect via display port instead, because the fonts will look a bit off. So I would say it's not a huge issue, but it is something a 800 euro monitor shouldn't have, and it is definitely something you need to think about before just using it. Now, you can control the OSD using the little joystick on the back, and the OSD itself is nicely laid out, very clean and very easy to follow. So you get a lot of picture profiles, you get quite a few game enhancers as well as overdrive settings, and you even get a form of backlight strobing they call aim stabilizer, but I'll talk about that a bit later. Now, this M32U does come with built-in speakers, and they're not really amazing as you would expect from monitor speakers, but they're also not that terrible. I mean, they will be more than good enough to listen to an informative YouTube video like this one, or to sit through your favorite show. Now, given that 4K 144Hz IPS monitors are supposed to be excellent at both gaming and that all-around use, you do expect the panel to perform well on pretty much every level. Now, when it comes to color, the results are very good, but not that exceptional. It does cover almost the entire sRGB color gamut, but looking at the 118% sRGB volume, I have to say that there are definitely monitors out there that offer a wider color range, like the Eve Spectrum, for example, standing at 134%, or the Aorus FI27QX with 156% sRGB volume. DCI-P3 coverage is a bit over 82%, which again isn't that bad unless you have a really serious DCI-P3 workflow. Now, they did include an sRGB profile as well, which is actually pretty accurate. It is showing only a tiny bit of oversaturation on red. So for any kind of web content creation, this monitor will do just fine. Now, other metrics are similarly good. Gray balance is pretty okay, as well as the color temperature, resulting in a subjectively good, if not great, impression of image quality. Now, contrast is obviously not amazing, but it is in line with other IPS monitors in this graph. Peak brightness comes in at 354 nits, which puts it on the lower end of the graph, but it's really more than bright enough for a monitor of this size. In HDR mode, however, the brightness goes up to 456 nits, which is better, but it doesn't really offer a good HDR experience. As you all know by now, HDR 400 label doesn't really mean anything. This isn't a full array local dimming monitor. It doesn't have a super wide gamut, nor does it go extremely bright. So it will take that HDR signal, but it won't be able to do much with it. I mean, you can just try it in a few games to see if it looks better, but please don't buy this monitor if you want a proper HDR experience. And for anyone that is sensitive to high brightness levels, it is dimmable to around 50 nits, which should be low enough for use in a dark environment as well. The viewing angles are great. Being an IPS panel, the backlight bleed is minimal to non-existent, and the uniformity is actually not bad either. There's a bit of a brightness drop on the right side of the panel, but that is quite hard to see when showing a single color on the entire screen, so I would say it will be impossible to notice while gaming or while doing anything else pretty much. But let's talk about speed. So for a super speed IPS panel, this monitor is not really super nor speedy. And while subjectively, your fast-paced games will feel and look snappy and smooth with very little ghosting, the total latency of this panel is lagging a bit behind faster alternatives like the Aorus FI32Q or the PG32UQX. Now, being 8 milliseconds behind the fastest 360 Hz monitors on the market isn't really a huge deal, but it is something to consider if you spend most of your free time playing fast esports titles, and a reason to maybe look for one of the alternatives in the graphs. Now, there are a few overdrive modes that you can choose from. The speed mode does show a lot of overshoot, so I would just avoid that one. Balanced is a bit better, and I have to say quite similar to the Smart OD mode. They're both completely usable with just a smidge of overshoot, while the picture quality mode shows no overshoot whatsoever, but it adds a little bit of ghosting. So I would personally just pick balanced or picture quality, depending on what looks better to you in a game that you're playing. They also added a backlight strobing mode that is supposed to just reduce some motion blur, but as you would expect, it doesn't really do much more than just reduce the brightness of the monitor by a lot and just makes the whole image a bit double and uncomfortable. I would personally just turn it off and avoid it as well. Now, I really do think that the combination of a 4K resolution and 32-inch diagonal makes a lot of sense, actually much more than on 27-inch monitors. You get the extra immersion of the larger screen while still maintaining a very sharp image. So for any colorful action adventure or RPG game, this combination will be very attractive, especially since this monitor doesn't really cost much more than a 27-inch 4K fast monitor. Also, as most of you are wondering, this is not a BGR panel, so the fonts will look sharp too. But there are definitely downsides of fast 4K monitors, and the first one is the fact that you will need a really powerful GPU to be able to run many games smoothly on a 4K resolution. Now, having FreeSync and G-Sync support helps a lot. Also, NVIDIA's DLSS feature and AMD's FSR feature help a lot. but there are a lot of games that don't support either, and if you plan on gaming on a monitor like this one, you should definitely arm yourself with a high-end GPU as well. And the second thing is the fact that fast Quad HD monitors will be much cheaper and will require a mid-range GPU instead. So make sure that you go for the combination that fits you and fits your wallet best. Now, I do have to say, it's a bit hard to summarize this monitor because the test results and the actual experience don't completely add up. If we just look at the pure numbers, this monitor has pretty mid-range results. It doesn't really excel in anything, but it also doesn't perform below expectations. It does exactly what it is supposed to do, and it's not really exciting per se. Now, there are better performing fast 4K monitors on the market, especially if you look at some 27-inch alternatives out there. But on the other hand, when you plug it in, when you start using it, and when you load a game, it just looks and feels really impressive, and it offers a really pleasant overall experience. Now, it is on the affordable side of large 4K monitors, but more expensive doesn't always mean more better. I'm actually working on the Aorus FI32U review as well that has the same panel, but then a different design, some RGB and a few extra features that are not that crucial in my opinion, but then for a hefty price premium. So if you could live without those extra features, you like a large monitor for that extra immersion, and you don't really care about a couple of milliseconds of latency, this is definitely a good option and a much better deal in my opinion. Now that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you liked this video. If you did, please give me a like and subscribe to Tech Testers to never miss a video. Bye guys, and see you in the next one.